What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Once again, another kind of comparison, but also a little bit more interesting because in my opinion, and in many other people's opinion as well, the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 was literally supposed to be like the Samsung Galaxy Note 10e. And I feel like the Note 10 should have been priced somewhat similar to the Samsung Galaxy S10e. So I find it really weird that the Note 10 was called the Note 10 because a lot of people probably would have assumed that it's the successor to the Note 9, which it is in some ways and it really isn't in a lot of other ways. But the Samsung Galaxy S10e actually came out in March, so just a couple months ago. But as you guys know, the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 is the newest device. But I will tell you, and I've said this before, there is still a lot of similarities between the Samsung Galaxy S10e and the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 that in reality, yes, the Note 10 is the newer device, but they're kind of separate devices when it comes down to it. So they're the newest in those specific line of phones that you have. And right now, I mean, Samsung kind of watered down the Samsung Galaxy Note line by releasing the Note 10. I think the Note 10 Plus is a tremendous phone and a huge upgrade from the Note 9, but the Note 10 still is kind of a little weird here and there. So looking at the front, you can see that they both have hole punch displays. The Samsung Galaxy S10e has that hole punch display on the top right corner. The Samsung Galaxy Note 10 has that center hole punch display. And it really just depends, I mean, if you like it or not. I mean, for me, I kind of was used to the S10e's design with even the Samsung Galaxy S10, but the Note 10, I mean, it's perfectly fine as well. Like, I think it looks just as good, and maybe it even looks better, but like I said, I was just more accustomed to the S10e. And actually looking at the front, the Samsung Galaxy S10e has a 5.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display that is actually 1080p with 438 pixels per inch. The Samsung Galaxy Note 10 also has a dynamic AMOLED display, but it is 6.3 inches. But what's interesting is that one has 401 pixels per inch. So that one actually has a half-inch bigger screen. When you're looking at them, you can kind of tell the size difference, to be honest. There's really not that much bezel on these phones. The S10e does have a little bit more bezel around it. It's really hard to tell, but it does have a little bit more bezel, so that's kind of an important thing to note. But in terms of reality, I mean, they both look almost identical, if I'm being honest. They both feel very premium. A super interesting thing about the Samsung Galaxy S10e is that it does have the headphone jack, where the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 does not. But the Note 10 also has the S Pen, so even though you're giving up that headphone jack, you still have the S Pen, which allows you to do so much more functionality within that device, which is super cool. Looking at the back, we have a dual camera setup on the Samsung Galaxy S10e and a triple camera setup on the Note 10. And this is probably the strongest factor about the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 would be the camera. I will go ahead and talk about it in a minute, but I'm not going to go too deep into this video. Hopefully I can go and make a separate video talking about it more in depth about those cameras, but I'll get into that in a minute. And that pretty much covers up everything on the outside. Both have USB Type-C ports, but overall they both look obviously like different phones because they are. The Note 10 is a little bit more sharp around the edges than the S10e. The edges on the S10e are a little bit more round, but like I said, that's all external, and if you put a case on it, you probably won't notice a difference anyway. So that pretty much covers up everything on terms of the outside. Now, in terms of the software, I am pretty sure these are going to get the same exact updates for both devices. So you have Android Pie on Samsung One UI on both these devices, and like I said, bro, like they're going to be getting probably the same updates. But here's the thing, which is an advantage for both of these phones. Samsung and many other companies have, because hardware is kind of becoming more and more obsolete, not like obsolete, but it's becoming more of the same. Like once you extend the bezels all the way and you have all just screen on the front, like what can you do to a phone to possibly make people want to update, So the software is what's going to come up next. And I feel like within the next year or two, Samsung is going to take a huge initiative on the software. They already did it with Samsung One UI, and I think they're going to do it pretty soon with extending the software versions of their phones as well. So they usually get like 3 versions of Android. I think they might extend that to 4 or 5 to rival iOS and Apple and everything. So I feel like that's coming sooner than later. So maybe Samsung will do that in the lifespan of these phones, but ultimately we really don't know. Like we don't have like hard facts or anything, but if I had to say it, I'm pretty sure the Samsung Galaxy S10e and the Note 10 are going to be perfectly fine in terms of software. They're really just getting started, but there's also going to be custom ROMs and roots out for these things as well. So I wouldn't even worry about it too much, but that's pretty much that in terms of software and the hardware on the outside, how they look on the phone and all that stuff. Like I said, I like both of these phones so far, but let's go ahead and talk about the performance of both of these phones. Now, this is where things become a little bit different. I mean, you're kind of looking at 2 different price tags. So the S10e is selling for $750. The Note 10 is selling for like $950, so about like $200 more than that. But like I said, I feel like the Note 10 is closer with the S10e than it is with the Note 10 Plus, and that's why I feel like it should have been the same price as the S10e. But I'll tell you the specs of the S10e inside. So we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 640 GPU, and there's two different variants of the Samsung Galaxy S10e. You have the 128 gig model, which has 6 gigs of RAM, and the 256 gig model that has 8 gigs of RAM. And the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 also has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset, an octa-core CPU as well, but those cores are actually clocked the same, which is surprising. Actually, they're clocked a little bit higher on the Samsung Galaxy Note 10. You also have the Adreno 640 GPU, but you only have one variant of the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, which is the 256 gig variant that has 8 gigs of RAM. So depending on the variant you get, you may get the one that has the same amount of RAM or one that has 2 gigs of RAM less on the Samsung Galaxy S10e. So in terms of that might be a little bit of difference right there, but this is what I'll tell you, okay? They both are very fast devices. I really haven't found too much of anything to make me say that they're not fast at all. I will tell you though, the Note 10 is maybe a little bit faster, and it's kind of weird because the S10e, when it was released, a lot of people weren't even salty about its display, I'll be honest. But when the Note 10 came out, like, a ton of people were bashing it because of the display, including me. I don't think it's a great thing for Samsung to do to put a 1080p panel on it for $1,000. But there's also less pixels per inch, but there's also more RAM on this variant than the base model of the S10e, and the cores are actually clocked higher a little bit too. So I'll definitely tell you, I do think the Note 10 is faster, but this is what I'll tell you. If the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 was a 10 out of 10, 100% perfectly good phone, I will tell you the Samsung Galaxy S10e is probably like a 95, like a 9.5 out of 10 of what the Note 10 is. Like, it is literally like almost the same exact thing. They're both very fast devices, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think the Note 10 is like way faster or $200 faster than the S10e. And maybe that's not what you're paying for when you're going from an S10e to a Note 10. You're definitely not getting performance. So if you're expecting a speed increase or anything between these two phones, I'm telling you, if you're not comparing them side by side, you are not going to notice that big of a difference at all. I know I say that about like a ton of phones, but it's never been more true than these phones. They have the same amount of RAM depending on the variant. You have the same Adreno 640, you have the same Qualcomm Snapdragon 855. Like, I'll let you guys be the judge, but in terms of my usage and my performance so far, I do think they're both almost the same, but I'll give the edge to the Note 10 a little bit. Now let's go ahead and hit on the cameras now. I'll tell you like this, I think both cameras are very good. You have dual camera setup on the S10e, like I said. You have a 12 megapixel sensor and then a 16 megapixel ultra wide sensor. On the Note 10, you have a triple camera setup, two 12 megapixel sensors, and then another 16 megapixel ultra wide sensor as well. You can shoot 4K at up to 60 frames per second on both devices. Interestingly enough though, there is no optical image stabilization on the S10e, which could be an advantage, could be a disadvantage. I mean, it's obviously just a disadvantage any way you look at it. But that's only at 4K at up to 60 frames. You can still do optical image stabilization on the 4K at 30 frames. With the Note 10, you have that capability on all frames, which is really cool. But I'll definitely tell you, I do think the Note 10's camera is overall better. Now, is it a billion times better? No, it's not. But you do have more features, you have more capabilities, you have, an extra sensor you can do more with. But also, Samsung did some really cool things with the software within the Note 10, so I have to give them mad respect for that. And when you're doing an upgrade from an S10e to a Note 10, the camera is definitely one thing you will notice that has improved, in my opinion. So without a doubt, the Note 10's camera wins, but I do think the S10e is still a very good camera. Like I always say, I don't have anything against the S10e. I think it's very solid, and the camera is right up there with it. And on the front, you have 10 megapixel sensors on both devices. You can actually shoot 4K at both sensors, which is so awesome, even on the S10e, which is cheaper and more so the budget flagship than one of the main flagships that Samsung offers versus the Note 10. So really cool, and I really like that a lot. Now moving on to the battery life, in my opinion, I think both devices, they could have been better in battery life, in my opinion. You have a 3100 mAh battery on the S10e, where you have a 3500 mAh battery on the Samsung Galaxy Note 10. They both have Qi wireless charging. I don't know why this is telling me this has reverse wireless charging, because I don't think the S10e has reverse wireless charging. The Samsung Galaxy Note 10, however, does have reverse wireless charging, which is a really cool feature and a humongous reason as to why to pick up a Samsung Galaxy Note 10. The standard S10 has it, the S10 Plus has it, so that's a cool thing. I've already done comparisons on those if you want to see them, but with the Note 10, you do have that capability. But this is what I'll tell you. I think Samsung could have put a bigger battery in the Note 10. The Note 9 had a 4000 mAh battery. I feel like Samsung could have done that same thing with the Note 10. The S10e, I think it is an upgrade from the S9, so I'll give it that. I'll give that the benefit of the doubt with that battery life, or at least that battery size. But overall, I think Samsung could have done better on both these devices in terms of battery life. But if I had to say it, I'll probably tell you the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 will probably give you the better battery life between these two, but it's not going to be as much as you might think. Now, a humongous thing about the Samsung Galaxy S10e is that it does have the micro SD card slot, which is a humongous cool thing. The Note 10, for some reason, does not have it, which I don't understand why they did that. The Note 10 Plus has it, but the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 doesn't, and that's a humongous feature for the S10e. But like I said, you do have some cool things with the Note 10. You have the better camera, you have the S Pen, which is an awesome feature. You have reverse wireless charging, you have all those different capabilities. So I will definitely tell you, I think between both of these, the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 is the better device without a doubt. I'm not trying to tell you like it's otherwise. I'm going to tell you like it is. Yes, it is the better phone, but I don't think it's worth $1,000. I think it's worth maybe like $800. I feel like if the S10e was at $750 or whatever it is, the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 should have been like $800 or maybe like $850, but definitely not like $950 what it is. That's just way too close to the Note 10 Plus's price tag of $1,050. So I feel like ultimately they kind of did a really weird thing there. They're still going to sell a ton of phones, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they probably could have done better. But really, I would say between these two, it just comes down to the size. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer a smaller, somewhat smaller phone? Or do you prefer somewhat of a bigger phone? Because the Note 10 isn't even that big, but for a lot of people, the S10e, members included, you might feel like the Note 10 is a bigger phone. But you do have some cool capabilities with the Note 10. But I mean, I would still probably recommend picking up a used Samsung Galaxy S10e or even a used Samsung Galaxy Note 10. Believe it or not, I've even seen some on eBay and all these other websites of people selling them for like $750 or even like $700 because of those trade-in values that they give in. So that's really, really cool. Just make sure you don't get scammed from those, but I'll find the cheapest Samsung Galaxy Note 10s and the S10es that I find on Amazon, and I'll link them straight down in the description below so you guys can go get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. But that is pretty much it, man. If you have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section as well. Hit that like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys to check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.